Hey everybody, I'm Steve Morris from the President Steve Show, and this is a mini comic book gurus episode. There are things to talk about, and we're going to focus in on just two things in this episode. We're going to start to try to add a lot more content to the Comic Gurus page, and there's just a lot to talk about, and we'll do some long-form shows, we'll do some short episodes, we might address just the opening of a particular movie, but we have all this incredible knowledge with the Comic Book Gurus. And, they can't just sit idly by. They've got other things to do, and we've got to access them when we get the chance. And we need to be able to roll in the moment. And we're going to roll right now over to the Comic Book Gurus and say hi to them. Hey, guys.
Hey, Steve.
All right, we have Craig Legans, we have Rob, Rockstar Rob, and we have, of course, the incredible Steph. How you guys been doing?
Pretty good.
Good. Do I sense excitement?
Yes, and we could start off on good news, right?
Yeah, go ahead. Rob never starts on good news, so I appreciate that. By the way, as I said before, Rob, as we were getting everything queued up here, you're looking awfully dapper these days.
Thank you.
It's like you show up at the farm after they've sheared the sheep, and look at this. You look fantastic. I got to say, I like it.
Thank you.
And I'll admit it. I'm getting turned the F on. Hey guys, so we have two things to talk about today. Those being a couple of, well, actually the first horror movie, horror property explored by the Marvel folks. And Craig, why don't you start to lead us into everything here?
Well, Marvel just made a concerted effort to go back to what brought them to the dance in the early 70s when the Marvel comic book boom really took off. That was the horror comics. And their first foray was Werewolf by Night, one of my favorite titles growing up. And I was kind of sketchy about this. You're doing it was a one-shot, it was a movie, and it turned out absolutely amazing. Shot in black and white, all done in black and white. The action was great. The storyline was great. We got to see Man-Thing, folks. We finally got our Man-Thing. Everyone was going crazy when we saw him on the side of the Grandmaster's arena in Thor Ragnarok, but there he was in the whole green and red flesh that he is on Werewolf by Night. I absolutely loved it. But what I loved even more was when my Comic Book Gurus podcast tag team partner, Rockstar Rob, called me up, and he said this. What did you say when you saw it, Rob?
I will say this now. This is the best thing I've seen Marvel do. This is by hands down my favorite of everything.
So that's a bold statement, Steph. You've seen it as well. What did you think?
Mm-hmm. I didn't know anything about it when I first watched it, but when I saw the trailer, I was definitely interested because I love horror movies. I love monster movies. And I was watching it, and I wasn't really sure what I was watching because I had no idea it was going to be in black and white. As I'm watching it, I was getting more and more into it. So then I just did a quick little internet search to get the backstory and everything, and ended up liking it that much more once I kind of learned where it was all coming from and where Marvel wanted to go with the whole monster idea. So
for a lot of people who don't know, and I did know this, and Craig, you guys obviously, Craig, you made mention of the fact that this is where everything came from. Michael Giacchino, the great Michael Giacchino, good friend of the President Steve Show, really distinguished himself with directing this. He has been a fan of Universal horror movies. We had him on the show. I'll call up the clip of him on our show 1 second here, and he said clearly this is his homage to the Universal horror movies, but also the beginning of all of the comic books, because there was a time in which the comic book was kind of the first cluster of comic books, meaning we had Tales from the Crypt and these comic books that were actually, they were trying to get them banned, and actually a whole bunch of people were freaking out because the subject matter was pretty adult. Can you guys give us some of the history of what led us to Werewolf by Night?
Well, the comics, horror comics have been around for, since comic books have been around. That's like you mentioned, Steve. There was Tales from the Crypt, and there was Fangoria, there was Creepshow, the comic book. What Marvel got, and DC and Marvel both had their own comics division, but in the early 70s, Marvel made a concerted effort not just to have superhero comics, but they had like 4 different quadrants of comics. They had your superheroes, your Spider-Mans, your X-Men, and you had your Westerns, like Two Gun Kid, you had your romance, science fiction, and war comics, like with Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos. But the horror comics were the second best-selling Marvel comics outside of the superhero comics.
Was
You had
there, Craig, in
Werewolf
fact,
by Night.
a chance at some point, and am I misremembering this? Were they in fact banned for a short while, or was it just that they were attempting to get them banned?
No, the Comics Code Authority, were such a strict, and they ruled with iron fist. There was a Spider-Man comic that just hinted at some drug use that they tried to get banned. So horror comics were seen as the occult, were seen as devil worshipping. There was a title called Son of Damien, Son of Satan, that they wanted to get banned. They didn't want anything to do with the Marvel horror comics at all. Stan Lee fought on behalf of not just Marvel, but DC, because DC had a comic book called The Witching Hour that Comics Code and were members in the state legislature in New York was trying to get banned. But if we're not for the Marvel comics, that's where Blade was first introduced in the Marvel horror comics, in the Tomb of Dracula.
Yes,
issue.
all this ties together. This is fascinating. I was not that completely. Hey, look, it's me. This is not that well versed in it, but Michael Giacchino himself said that was part of the thrill of all of this for him because Kevin Feige came to him and said, "Listen, you have clearly directorial chops. You've got the ability. In fact, Michael studied film, and obviously we know him as a great, fantastic Academy Award-winning composer." But he didn't have to think for a second. And he said Werewolf by Night was what he wanted to do immediately. And obviously it ties in, dovetails with Halloween. It's a one-off. I think, like as you guys have said, and Rob, as you said, this is clearly a realm a lot of people want to revisit and get back to. And we have up here the webpage for The Hollywood Reporter. And there has been this rumor, Marvel's Werewolf by Night set stage for a horror-style Avengers crossover. How would that occur, Rob? Do you have any insight?
Well, we've had people like Moon Knight, which probably, even though the bold step was Werewolf by Night, but bringing in even Doctor Strange and then moving into Moon Knight, you're getting more toward that dark side. We got to get Ghost Rider yet. But yeah, you could totally get that. What if, Moon Knight, Doctor Strange, all these people have been part of superhero teams. Right now, you have Anti-Venom, which is part of Savage Avengers. I mean, they're bringing all these dark characters out front, and that's what people want. They want this.
Who would we see? Because I think, Steph, you're probably in my boat as far as this goes. I mean, and I've got a basically pretty comprehensive knowledge. But where would we see the point of crossover, and what Avengers specifically are we talking about that might be interacting with these, these monsters and these creatures that we saw in Werewolf by Night?
Well, in Avengers, right now you have Blade and the other Ghost Rider, the one with the car. They're a part of the mainstream Avengers right now. But that opens the door to Dracula. That opens the door to Damien Hellstrom, the son of Satan. The big news that has been this week is Sacha Baron Cohen is going to possibly play Mephisto, which we have it's been skeptical whether that was going to happen because it's the devil, but it looks like he's on board, everything I've read. So we're going to start to see this now. I hope they bring the Night Stalkers in, which was I'm trying to think of their names, but one guy was a vampire, the other guy was the descendant of Dracula.
I see Craig's index finger up. Craig, do you have anything to
Correct
add?
me if I'm wrong, Craig.
No, I would never correct you, Rob, because you're
No,
never
he'll
wrong.
just mail
So,
you a turd.
a
He already
plausible way.
did that.
He already did that.
Happy birthday. A plausible way to get the Avengers horror monster style crossover is at the end of Eternals, that I know not a lot of people saw, but we saw the Ebony Blade with that Kit Harington's character had. He was going to be the Black Knight. And my monster kitty is the other
Yeah, I see
trying
your
to.
monster kitty there. Yeah.
But we heard the voice of Blade in that, so Blade would be part of Eternals and the Ebony Sword that we saw the Black Knight have in the Eternals. We've already had Moon Knight, like that Rob said. We've met Morbius. We've met Man Thing. All these characters I just named were part of the Marvel Comics run of Midnight Suns. Sun spelled Sons. So
Right.
and the Blade movie, unfortunately, was delayed from shooting. Was supposed to start shooting next month. That's been pushed back. The director dropped out. Apparently, Mahershala Ali saw the 90-page script and thought it was garbage. So that's out. But
I know.
Blade
I
is.
know. I know that we were all excited about this. I know, Steph,
Mm-hmm.
we talked about Blade the last time.
Yeah.
Blade was, and we said, and it's the truth, this was the first big Marvel movie, the first comic book port. Wesley
Mm-hmm.
Snipes, it blew me away. I loved it. And when I heard everything in place for this, and now I hear it's turning to crap. I hope they're able to get it back. Steph, last time, so we talked about horror movies and other things like
Mm-hmm.
that. A lot has been made about Werewolf by Night and the fact that there's a lot more blood than you've seen in earlier Marvel ventures. So, do you think, and it's been a concern of mine, the Disneyfication of things,
Right.
if that's going to rob a lot of these things of some of their more visceral aspects. Were you cool with that? And would you be cool with seeing more of that?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I loved the Netflix shows. They had Punisher, Luke Cage, all of those because they were a lot more graphic. They could do a lot more. And I've sort of felt like the Disney versions of these shows have been kind of lackluster for
I think
me.
you're right. I think you're,
So,
and you're a mom too. You're a
yeah.
great mom, but you want to see.
Yeah.
I agree so much, and I've been thinking about that. The delineation between the Netflix Marvel
Yeah.
approach, clearly a more real world graphic vis, but
Hmm.
oh my God, the Daredevil stuff was so good.
Oh, just
Um,
so amazing. Yeah, and watching, I've been watching the Disney shows and they're okay. But then to see, Werewolf by Night and have more of that again was really nice. It was a really nice change because I was kind of starting to feel like things were getting stale, like with each new show that was coming out. So this was a really good change.
Do you think we'll see? Do you think that they will follow through with it because of the response to Werewolf by Night, or will we be back in regular tamped down Disney Marvel territory?
I mean, probably both. I don't think they're going to stop doing what they've been doing with the Disney ones, but I hope they can see the reaction they've gotten from this and kind of learn from it and also do more of it.
All right, all right.
I
So
found something, Steve. I
yeah,
gotta
go ahead,
say this. I
Rob.
found I found something extremely interesting in talking to people that watched Werewolf by Night. Now, we talked about how we loved it that he did it in black and white, the way the old studio horror movies were done. But a lot of young people have trouble watching black and white. I, you know,
Not even just young people. Actually, it's Casey on the Preston and Steve show has
yeah.
trouble watching black and white. To me, Rob, that conjures so many great memories. I love the original Universal horror movies. I'm going all the way back to the original James Whale, Frankenstein, the Todd Browning Dracula. Practical sets. No CGI. And clearly Michael Giacchino was absolutely motivated by that in this one. Though there were flashes of color, and there
Yeah.
was a color to the coda of the story, which made it really cool. Do, do you see even the possibility? Could there be an ongoing series in black and white? Do we do movies? Do any of you say that is a conceivable thing where in a retro approach to subject matter, there would be an entire series, or at least a 6 or 8 episode series in black and white?
I would
Yes.
like it. I mean, if you look at Twilight Zone, all in black and white, every New Year's Eve, Sci-Fi does a huge marathon, and I check those out. And even some of the episodes you've seen 1,000 times can still give you the creeps. It's still good. So
I
I
also
hope they
think,
can do something like that.
I'm dating myself
well,
by
you must be
saying
very
this.
lonely. No, I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
I
It's an
know.
old
Yes.
joke. Yeah.
But I grew up watching black and white television, so watching black and white film doesn't bother me. But the younger generation that grew up, everything was in color, they can't comprehend black and white. And
Mhm.
I find black and white sometimes more appealing because of the textures of the lights and the shadows. And um so but like I talk to somebody and like, they're in their 20s and they're like, I can't watch this. It's black and white. I don't get.
Well,
Yes.
the truth of the matter is that people like Woody Allen and Martin Scorsese and other directors have turned to black and white because the perception is it can be more evocative and you can play, with so much more. I think in horror it definitely has its place. I don't think Night of the Living Dead, the original version,
Mm,
I think it might have suffered. Was it in color? And obviously
hmm
they did Dawn of the Dead, another George Romero classic, but because of the makeup and the effects that they were using, and the great Tom Savini doing the makeup for that movie, the zombies were blue, and it looked kind of weird. So
Even Steve, even the Walking Dead comic book was in black and white.
Black
was
and
it?
white.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
whole thing,
The
black and
the
white.
whole series ran in black and white. Now they're redoing it in color, but the whole original run was all in black and white.
Yes,
It's
nice.
it's really cool, and very promising. And I think honestly, I would not want to see anyone but Michael Giacchino, who's definitely won over those guys. The fact that they turned this over, we had him on the show, by the way, the most humble, the nicest guy, super creative. We all know his incredible soundtracks, but the
Mhm.
things that he did, and he talked to us about, kind of turning to the support of the people on the set and the people who do. I mean, we're looking at some of the imagery here, just top level stuff. But also, he had a specific list of things he wanted to incorporate. And if you watch the episode closely, he even includes fake film scratches. And it just popped up on the screen just now.
mm,
When you used to watch old movies before everything was digitized and on a hard drive, there would be a signal on the screen for a reel change, and it'd be like a little flash. You'd see it up in the upper right hand corner.
Yeah.
For the cans of film, he incorporated all of that into this, and I think it's just sensational because of that. Let's move on to the next subject.
Before we switch, I just wanted to say one thing because I can't forget this. When this started and you first see Jack Russell, I'm
Right.
looking at him like, wow, it reminds me of like Tobias Forge from Ghost.
Yeah, he
It
had to
just,
say that.
yeah, it just
He
had
looked a
that
bit like that.
vibe, and I'm like, yeah, well, maybe he'll be in.
Well,
Maybe
let me
they'll.
ask you. So the actor Gail Barcia Bernal, correct?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael Giacchino said that was the only guy he had in mind for that role. I'd love to see that continue. And there were some faces that we knew and some that we did not. But I think all in all, I'd have to agree. It was just a tremendous home run for Michael Giacchino, and I'd like to see more. I think we all would. So
Yeah.
up next, it is She-Hulk, the season finale. We don't know what the plans
mm.
are for the series to continue. What do you guys think? Let's get some feedback.
Princess Fiona, attorney at law.
Explain.
Rob,
She looked like Shrek,
the
like
whole
from
series.
Shrek. Princess Fiona, attorney at law. That's what it
Yeah.
should have been called.
Oh,
What do you? So, Craig, you agree? Disagree? Give me your general vibe. I'm going to get it from each of you.
Completely disagree, of course. I loved every episode of She-Hulk. It was exactly like the comic book. And for those of you who didn't read the comic book, and by judging by the criticism this series got, that's a lot of you. That's what she did. She broke the fourth wall. And made it funny. Winked at herself, winked at the audience. Even managed to, during the course of this 9-episode series, poke fun at the people poking fun at her that were critics of the show itself. I thought it was great. I loved every episode. They kind of teased us a little bit because so many people knew that that Charlie Cox was going to make an appearance in it, but they made us wait and wait and wait and wait. But when he finally did show up, it was I thought it was awesome. I give it a B. As far as all the other Disney in all the other Disney shows that they've done, this is in my top 5.
So, Steph, your take on it?
Mm-hmm. It was kind of one of those shows that I could have on in the background while I was doing other stuff and didn't have to really worry about missing anything. And you know what? And this is going to be a hill I will die on. They didn't make, I mean, look, now we all know I'm clueless when it comes to the comic books. So, it could be an unfair criticism, but they just don't make female superheroes big enough. And it makes me so mad. I'll bring back Wonder Woman every single time.
How big did you want her? She was 7 feet tall.
Well, not tall, but bulky. Like you look at Hulk and then you look at She-Hulk, like her legs were sticks. Did she skip leg day? Because it looks like she did.
Let me jump in here, by the way, for those of you who don't know. I think, Steph, you did some bodybuilding in your day, right? And in fact, you were we came to know you because one of the Philly's Hottest contests, a Fit Girl.
Yeah.
I to be honest, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that as well. I think that would have been cool. She did look like the comic book version. And they really did a lot of that. But if you're going to make some changes, I would have liked to have seen. We see like with the CrossFit and the much more athletic physiques that were, for example, were on display in Zack Snyder's Justice League, the Amazons and Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. We can go there. They don't have to look like Schwarzenegger in a wig, but it's there's you can celebrate that now a little bit and move towards that. And I think it would be good. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean they did it with Luisa in Encanto. They actually wanted to make her a lot smaller, and then they didn't but the artist actually pushed Disney, gave them kind of some pushback to make her bigger, and she ended up being one of the fan favorites. They really didn't expect that, so I think you can make them a little bit bigger. I don't know if they're worried about losing quote unquote femininity because they're too big. I don't know what the issue is, but I mean it's a small criticism, but
in the comic book.
I think you're right, by the way, on a certain level. I absolutely do. Rob, take it away.
I'm gonna say
let me say sexy Rob, take it away.
In the comic book now, she has reverted to a savage version of the Hulk, and she is the bulkiest I've ever seen her. So, it's like everything when we originally the Hulk that we expected with Bruce Banner is what she is now. So they did not reflect that. The closest thing, I guess, was in the episode when they did the spoof on the old TV show.
All right, here's the issue here, Rob. So they did the opening credit sequence, and they did a really wonderful, faithful version of the Bill Bixby series, the Marvel series, the Lou Ferrigno series. That was a guy playing female.
Was it?
It was a guy. They could have found a competitive female bodybuilder to do that, and on the bigger side, and it was a guy. Playing.
Well, wasn't Lou Ferrigno though? Was
No. But so yes, I get that. I love She-Hulk. Always been one of my favorite characters, and for all the reasons that you mentioned, Craig, I'm going to put in my 2 cents here on this, and I jotted down a couple of notes. Tatiana Maslany, Orphan Black, love her. She's great. She did a great job. I felt the way you felt, Steph. I felt it was okay. It was. So it's a humorous law show. They kept saying it's a comedy law show. It wasn't enough law.
No.
All the writers freely admitted that they knew nothing really about law. The real pivotal case about law in the series was like a copyright infringement or a trademark case. So you had that as far as being funny, inventive. There was a lot of good stuff. Breaking the fourth wall, I
Hmm.
enjoyed it. It just never, for me, I found myself more often than not when the final credits popped up for each episode going, what?
Yeah.
What was the plot of this again?
Yeah.
You know, the A plot and the B plot, which one wrapped up? So often it didn't wrap up. I got the idea, and I get it. They kept saying, you know, the writers on the show, this isn't going to be your standard approach where, okay, here's the master villain and there's the big battle and all that sort of stuff. And I appreciated them,
Hmm.
going away from that. But on the other side, it was almost there was almost nothing going on.
Too little. Yeah.
Too little going on, and that's where I think it dropped the ball. And to your point earlier, Craig, about taking on the trolls, and the show was written well in advance and produced well in advance. I'm starting to get a mind that a lot of this deal with trolls, and they're scumbags. I get it. And there are people saying horrible things. I get it. But I'm also seeing from the movie companies, if something is performing less than admirably, or they didn't do, it's okay that to entertain the notion that perhaps it's just not that good. And the reaction to it isn't always based in toxic people being toxic about something. If the goal is to extract any ability to criticize a show and put you under the label of somebody who has no real grounds to stand on because you're a toxic troll, I don't think that's good either. I don't think you savage somebody simply for taking. You just don't like it. You don't need to be caustic
Hmm.
and wage a campaign against people online. That's just stupid and it is reprehensible. But you should also be able to say, you know what? Okay, it's female empowerment. Great. I loved getting some of the angles of her in the dating world, and I love that.
Hmm.
I don't. I think the case can be made, and we've talked about it all the time. And Steph, you agreed when we did with this as well. Just make it good. Just make it good.
Yeah.
Fans have embraced, especially fans of comic book and the comic book characters and the strong female characters throughout DC and
Hmm.
Marvel, have always embraced strong female characters. That's not the issue. The key is if you're pandering, and B, if you're underwriting. And
Hmm.
I thought this was underwritten. Anyone want to take that on, or Steph? Did I get close to what you were saying?
Yeah, pretty much. And real quick, Craig, I know I'm gonna get
No,
you just in
I'm
one
so,
second.
can we stop? Can we stop? Just for
yes.
Yes,
just for
yes.
I just no, because somebody at the door. I apologize. I'll be
You
right
go
back.
go to the
Oh.
go. You go get the door. We will keep going, and Steph,
Um,
you can continue. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
the only thing I wanted to say was that I kind of wish it was more like Monster of the Week style, and almost and I in having like almost like a case of the week, because I would have liked to see her as a lawyer, and then weave in her personal life. I
Well,
that's
think
what
that
we
would have made
thought
a
we
nice
were going to
balance.
get.
yeah, Rob.
That's what we
Yeah.
thought we were
Rob.
going to
You're
get.
exactly right. For example, in that first episode where Titania comes in, and
Yeah.
why was she pissed off like that again?
They said she had a traffic ticket.
Like,
No.
and why are they coming down on Jennifer God,
Walters.
Walters, for Christ's sake, all these names. So anyway, she has one moment in the finale where she becomes, or not the second to last episode, where she hulks out in public, doesn't really harm anybody, but
Mm-mm.
the next time you pick her up, she's incarcerated, and they're talking about trying to stop her from ever transforming again. Titania burst through the wall of an active trial, and they're just, hey, you're wonderful, you're an influencer. It's am I right?
Yeah.
There's talk on the internet about this
You know?
causing a problem with a conundrum of the Hulk, because they tell you in the beginning, Bruce Banner has, he's the Hulk, and then his blood got into her, but his blood and her blood, there was something special about her blood that actually cured his hand from the Infinity Gauntlet. But
Right.
when that other guy takes the blood and he turns into a Hulk at the end, the guy that was running
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
thing, You
Okay.
are saying, you are basically saying that anybody who gets Hulk blood can turn into a Hulk. And
And
the
and
beginning
and,
of
and
it is telling you something different.
and Craig, on that case, as the lore goes, it was, and I remember reading it was a transfusion. He
Right.
saved her life with this transfusion. Correct? That's how she
That's
became
correct.
that way.
They, yes.
So and this was a lot more happenstance, and it does seem that all you got to do is this is almost like the juice in The Boys. You know, you take a
Mm.
swig and you got the powers. But that
Compound V.
you both are saying that's not the case as far as the comic book origin story goes.
No, and they alluded to it in the
Mm-hmm.
what in the comic book. Jen was in the fatal car accident, and her cousin Bruce was the only donor that had the same blood type. His blood goes into her, instant She-Hulk. They even and it was a mob hit. She was run off the road by guys that she was mob people that she was trying to prosecute. Um, the thing is, and I don't expect anything from the source material to get into a Marvel show, TV show, movie, whatever. I've waved goodbye to that, a long time ago. What they did do was capture the essence of She-Hulk, and I've heard the refrain from Steph and from other people. I never read the comic books. I'm new to this. That's fine. That's what Marvel movies and Disney shows are about. If you haven't read a comic book, that's even better because you're looking at this with new eyes. Um,
And that's
I get
that's my situation, at least
yeah.
on some of this. And I fall between you guys and Steph, which we really appreciate, is that you're coming in, as a bit more of a newbie with this, but you definitely are gaining your chops, and you to see the joy of you
Mm-hmm.
experiencing this stuff is really cool. But I think that's something like I don't want to know every character ahead of time. I want to enjoy the movies and learn that way, and I think. With She-Hulk, I had been waiting for this one because I was a fan of the comic books, and
Hmm.
and Craig, I agree with you. They got a lot right, but to me, it just didn't have. I was looking for so much more. So I see how Steph could be changing a transmission on a car and having this on in the background, and and not really missing that much.
But it still
It,
doesn't change that what Bruce Banner, Professor Hulk, explains, well, we have a unique thing in our blood and everything. And then that guy injects the Hulk blood and he turns into a Hulk. Well, now it's like, okay, does he have the unique blood type that turns him into a Hulk? Did they know he has the unique blood type? Or is it just now, oh, anybody who gets Hulk blood, just like Captain America's super soldier serum?
All
Mm.
right, I'm gonna keep this reeled in because this is a mini episode, and I think we're doing quite good. We're trying to be respectful of people's time here, especially those who now want to get on those social media sites and let Rob know how hot he's looking. But where does this go from the series to the movies to? Are we going to see the She-Hulk character make her way into movies? We have the Daredevil relationship. We didn't even get into that. Yeah, again, loving Daredevil the way we do. I didn't think it was a Daredevil killer the way he appeared in the series, and I actually thought there were moments that I enjoyed. But
Mm-hmm.
I know you feel this way, Steph. I came in like this is my boy, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah. It
felt it
was a
was
great episode.
yeah. But I felt it was I could have done with more of that.
Yeah.
and
And we
there
didn't
is
even mention Scar.
Well, because he basically is hiding in Professor Hulk's ass, the barbecue, and comes around and he asks where the ambrosia salad is, and that's it. I mean,
yeah.
what a quick way to introduce and then dismiss. I was kind of pissed off with that.
Well, the
Yeah.
whole finale is kind of like a swipe, a parody of sorts, right down to the Fast and Furious picnic at the
Right.
end. Seeing Daredevil in broad daylight and everything. So, Robbie kept going back to the guy Todd with the Hulk blood. That's gone. So we're not going to see Todd anymore. And next time we see Todd, he's not going to be a Hulk. Or that was
Todd
just
went to jail.
yes. And
Todd got
remember
arrested.
when she broke the fourth wall and we got to meet the knowledge enhanced visual interconnectivity nexus that is Kevin, all that was wiped clean. Um, So what we will see She-Hulk again, possibly in Captain America: New World Order, probably show up in the Daredevil Born Again series on Disney in 2023 that they're shooting. Um, but when we see her in the other projects, though, she won't be breaking the fourth wall because that's only in
Mm,
her show.
mm,
Season 2 hasn't been greenlit yet, but I don't doubt that there will be one, because for all of the criticism and some negative reviews that he got, it's Disney. So if they want a season 2, they'll make a season 2.
You know what I'd like to see them do? I'd like to see them disconnect from worrying about the trolls
Uh-huh.
and worrying about that meta aspect of it. Have fun like they did with crawling through the menu page of Disney Plus. That's fine. I think the writers are talented. I just think they need to brush up a little bit more on. I don't want to sense disdain for the art form and for
mm,
what these characters mean to the audience. And I think they're inventive enough. They seem humorous enough, to take a crack at a season 2. But am I correct in saying if they were to correct a little bit more towards the comic books and not be so worried about trolls and stuff like that, that we might have a real home run of a season?
Yeah, possibly. And if they had more law,
And if she goes into Deadpool, there won't be any walls left.
All right, there we go.
They'll be
There we go.
breaking all the walls down.
All right. So I think we are doing pretty good time wise. We're going to wrap it up. You guys both saw Black Adam. Craig and Rob, you both saw Black Adam. Steph, you're going to go see it. I'm going to see it as well.
yep.
We're going to do a short one topic episode, a mini, like a Go-Gru episode. And so what we'll do is focus specifically on that. And we're going to again start populating everything with more content. And we really want you to do one thing that's absolutely critical to all this, and that's subscribe. And you know it's subscribe time when the subscribe button covers Steph's Instagram, which I got to get that
That's
fixed.
nice.
So,
Yeah.
all right, guys, you were fantastic as always, and we will commit this one to the ether for everyone to watch. Please let us know how you like what we're doing, what you think we can improve. Get in touch with everyone here. There's all their Instagram stuff, and let me reveal yours again, Steph. There we go. We appreciate the support, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.
See